Camel jokes, animal jokes. Camel short jokes. Q. Why are camels called ships of the desert? A. Because they are filled with Arab seamen. Q. What do you call a camel without a hump? A. Humphrey, hump-free. Q. Did you hear about the camel who was accused of stock fraud? A. He took part in a hump and dump scheme. Q. Why did the Taliban school alternate sex education classes with driver's edition? A. They only had one camel. Q. What do you call a Taliban who owns 6 camels? A. Pimp. Q. How do you have sex with a camel? A. 1 hump at a time. Q. What do you call 144 camels in a box? A. Gross. Q. What is a camel's favorite nursery rhyme? A. Humpty Dumpty. Do you like camels 'cause we can go humpback at my place? Camel bar jokes. General in the Foreign Legion. This general in the Foreign Legion is transferred to a new fort, and halfway through his tour of the place, he spots a mangy old camel tied up at the back of the fort. He turns to the corporal. What in God's name do you use that for? He asks. The corporal replies, well, sir, there are a lot of men, and now and then, they become, shall we say, horny. Ah, yes, I understand. Fine, move on. About 6 weeks later, the general wakes up feeling so horny, he'd get up on the crack of dawn and calls the corporal. Bring me to the camel, says he. The corporal does, and once at the camel, he makes it stand up, and places a stool behind it. With that, the general stands on the stool, takes out Mr. Floppy and inserts it into the camel. He then proceeds to give it the ride of its life. Having finished, he puts away his equipment, and looks proudly at the corporal. Well, he says, is that the way you men do it around here? No, sir, replies the corporal, we normally just use the camel to ride to the nearest brothel. Elephant and camel. The elephant asked the camel, why do you have your breasts on your back? The camel, clearly irritated by the outrage of modesty, replies, what a silly question from someone who has a dick on his face. Middle of the Sahara Desert. A nun and a priest were crossing the Sahara Desert on a camel. On the 3rd day out, the camel suddenly dropped dead without warning. After dusting themselves off, the nun and the priest surveyed their situation. After a long period of silence, the priest spoke. Well, sister, this looks pretty grim. I know, father. In fact, I don't think it likely that we can survive more than a day or 2. I agree. Sister, since we are unlikely to make it out of here alive, would you do something for me? Anything, father. I have never seen a woman's breasts and I was wondering if I might see yours. Well, under the circumstances I don't see that it would do any harm. The nun opened her habit and the priest enjoyed the sight of her shapely breasts, commenting frequently on their beauty. Sister, would you mind if I touched them? She consented and he fondled them for several minutes. Father, could I ask something of you? Yes, sister. I have never seen a man's penis. Could I see yours? I supposed that would be okay, the priest replied, lifting his robe. Oh, father, may I touch it? This time the priest consented, and after a few minutes of fondling, he was sporting a huge erection. Sister, you know that if I insert my penis in the right place, it can give life. Is that true, father? Yes, it is, sister. Then why don't you stick it up that camel's ass and let's get the hell out of here? Englishman, Irishman, and Scotsman. An Englishman, an Irishman and a Scotsman were in the sweltering desert, walking around looking desperately for something to eat and drink, when, as if out of nowhere, a camel appeared. The Englishman caught the camel and spluttered, I support Liverpool. So I suppose I better eat the liver. The Scotsman immediately shouted, well, I support hearts, so I'll eat the heart. And then the rather mentally challenged Irishman said, I support Arsenal, but I don't feel hungry anymore.